What's up, everyone? This is Paris Taylor, your host of the Cocktail Hour, where we spotlight the most talented bartenders shaking up the cocktail scene. Today, we're at Apotheke in the heart of Chinatown, where we'll be interviewing bar manager Gerard Chamberlain. Apotheke, for folks who don't know, is known for their prescriptive-worthy menu of botanical-infused cocktails and herbal elixirs. Gerard, for folks at home, Baltimore native and motorcycle enthusiast. It's Cocktail Hour. Let's go meet Gerard and check out the bar. Gerard, thanks for joining us here at the Cocktail Hour. How you doing, man?
Thanks for coming in, man.
Of course. So listen, for folks at home, do you mind just telling folks your name, where you're from, and where we are today?
Yeah, so I'm Gerard Chamberlain. I'm the bar manager here at Apotheke Chinatown. I'm originally from outside of Baltimore.
Great, man. So we'd love to just kick off with a story, man.
Yeah.
How'd you end up bartending? Share a little bit about your background.
So I came to New York City to act originally.
Mm-hmm.
My bartending career was doing much better than my acting career, so I just decided, I'm going to focus on this full force. And it's been 7 or 8 years now of just like focusing on bartending, and since then, I get to work here. I became the bar manager. I've done a bunch of events with brands all over the country. It's been great.
What was the first bartending job that you have? You remember that?
My first bar job was actually in Baltimore at a country club.
Okay.
It was very different than Apotheke, I'll tell you that much.
I'm sure. Is that good or bad?
No, I tell people this all the time, like, there are different kinds of bars.
Yeah.
And, they all offer different things. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
I wouldn't go to that country club and expect the bartender to know what a Corpse Reviver number 2 is, you know?
Sure.
But.
And so what was it about bartending that drew you to the space?
I like drinking.
Yeah.
I really like creating things, whether it's, I grew up as an artistic kind of person. And so it's just like another outlet. I think there's something really fun about having a drink that someone makes, because it's creative, but it's kind of fleeting in a way.
Yeah.
And that means you can have another one,
Yeah, for sure. Exactly, and I'll take multiple. So, so let's talk about, some of the things that you do outside of bartending. What are the, the passion projects that you're working on, hobbies, things that you like to do outside of the job?
So when it's not really cold, I like to ride my motorcycle.
Nice.
Or ride a bicycle even. I love biking. I'm working on my Harley right now. Her name's Dolly. She needs some work, but that's what the winter time is for, right?
Yeah.
When it's cold, I read a lot. I can't give you a number. I read a lot. I read a lot of sci-fi.
I got you. Any books you'd recommend in the sci-fi space?
I just read Neuromancer.
Okay.
Are you familiar?
I'm not. No.
So it came out in like '84, I want to say.
Okay.
That book is what the writer William H. Gibson coined the phrase cyberpunk.
Okay.
And a slew of other words that we still use to this day.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. He kind of invented the cyberpunk genre.
Okay.
Anyway, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So we did a little bit of research on you, and you mentioned sort of your affection, for motorcycles and biking. What happened with Dolly in 2022?
There was the first time I took her out. I had moved back here and I was so busy, and then I finally got to take her out. So I'm riding out to Long Island.
Yeah.
And we hadn't gone on a trip since I think I rode her up from Baltimore. And I thought she was fine. Like, I'd done all the checks on her, but the battery died. In this small town. I can't remember the name of it, but I was in this parking lot and I was like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I'm out in Greenpoint, or in, I think it was Greenport, maybe. Luckily, there was a little shop right around the corner.
Okay.
But I had to push this bike down this main street of this little small town. But there was a little bit of a hill, so at one point I'm pushing it, and then I was able to jump on it and just kind of roll down the hill. But people didn't realize that the bike wasn't on.
Yeah.
So they're like honking
You got
at
no
me.
lights on too.
Yeah,
on the bike.
yeah, no lights. I mean, it's the middle of the day,
Yeah.
but no lights and no engine.
Yeah.
People were honking at me to go faster. They don't realize, and I'm like waving them around me like I'm just going down a hill. You know.
Right.
So luckily they were able to fix the bike, but they were cash only. And at the time I didn't even have a debit card. I only had my credit card. So I had to like call my bank, figure out how to get money from the credit card to be able to pay them for the new battery.
Yeah.
The guy was like, you could, we could snip your lights and you could just ride home. He's like, it'll probably get you home.
Yeah.
Like he's like, there's a drain or something on the battery. Luckily, I didn't have to do that. I just
And where was home at the time for you?
Bushwick.
In Bushwick,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. But I was keeping the bike in Red Hook.
Yeah.
So I had to go to Red Hook and then go back to Bushwick. But, yeah.
And where are you living today? Are you still in Bushwick?
Yeah.
Nice,
yeah.
nice. What drew you to the neighborhood?
I mean, that was the first neighborhood I lived in when I moved here.
Yeah.
I moved in with a friend. And I mean, honestly, like, there's a lot of good dive bars there.
Yeah.
I have a really good deal on my apartment. And I don't know, it's just like a young neighborhood, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm getting a little too old for it now, but I got a couple years left.
Yeah, no, I mean, we love Bushwick, so that's good, and definitely a great nightlife scene out there for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
All right, so before we dive into sort of the bar and you know, a little bit more about the history here, we want to introduce a segment called Cocktail Hour, where we try one of the 3 cocktails that you've made, man.
Yeah.
So we'd love for you to pick one and walk us through the ingredient list, sort of, you know, the story behind the drink as well.
I mean, let's go with a wartime consigliere.
Let's do it.
So this is the wartime consigliere. If you've ever seen The Godfather,
Yep.
So the famous scene where Sonny is like, Tom, you're not a wartime consigliere, like you're not Sicilian. And this drink is a riff on a cocktail called The Godfather.
Gotcha.
I think it was a 70s cocktail. Originally, it would have been like equal parts scotch and amaretto.
There we go.
Super sweet, right?
Good.
Nowadays, if you go to a cocktail bar and you order a Godfather, it's typically going to be like 2 parts scotch, 1 part amaretto.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we did here,
Yeah.
except it's not just scotch.
Gotcha.
So this is 3 different kinds of liquor.
Yeah.
So you've got scotch. It's Aberfeldy 12 year.
Okay.
It's a Highland scotch, so it's not super peaty. That's typically what I tend to like.
Yeah.
So Aberfeldy 12 year, Torres 15.
Okay.
And then just a little bit of Cruzan Blackstrap rum. That's going to bring kind of the maple flavor for it.
Yeah, this is really good.
Some of the
I'm tasting
nuttiness
maple
is
flavor
coming from that
too.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no maple syrup. It's just from that rum.
Interesting.
So those are the 3 base spirits, right? We take those, we mix them up, and then we infuse that with toasted coconut.
Okay.
And that's like our base.
Got it.
You also are going to have some chocolate notes in there. We're using mole bitters from Bittermans. Some of my favorite bitters out there on the market. Anything stirred, anything like brown and stirred, those bitters are amazing.
Okay.
And then we've got Adriatico Amaretto. So the kind of the backstory for this drink, I consider him my mentor.
Okay.
This guy named Al Sotak. He kind of taught me how to bartend. That was the first cocktail bar that I worked in New York.
Okay.
I was a bar back. Eventually.
And which bar was this?
This was Jupiter Disco.
Okay.
In Bushwick.
Gotcha.
So you know, I was a bar back there. I left, but I still would like pick up shifts when they needed help. Because I loved the bar. I loved learning there, but it was just I had too many jobs at that point. But anyway, I go back at one point. I start bartending. Al hits me up. Not even a year ago, 8 months ago. I hadn't talked to him in a while, and he was like, "Hey man, can I ask a favor?" And I was like, "Yeah, what can I do for you?" You know,
Yeah.
like he's like a big deal or whatever. And he was like, I'm working for this new brand, and my boss has asked me if I could specifically get into Apotheke.
Yeah.
He was like, "Are you able to bring in a couple bottles?" I was like, "Dude, I'll put you on the menu."
Yeah.
So he introduced
Nice.
me to Adriatico Amaretto. I mean, you know, talking points about that. It's like 40% less sugar than a lot of the other big brands.
Yeah.
It's really, it does use almonds. So if you have a nut allergy, that's kind of a problem. But they use real almonds, whereas a lot of them don't. And they also have a little bit of sea salt,
Okay.
which I want to say from the Adriatic Sea, which just adds another layer to it. you
Yeah,
know?
for sure.
So this is kind of my, and there's also a little bit of Manzanilla sherry in there to kind of dry it out and add
Okay.
a little more salinity and a little nuttiness. But regardless, this is kind of like my my ode to Al. You know, he taught me how to bartend, so I put a drink on the menu.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, man. And it's really, really good, by the way.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
All right, so we're here at Apotheke, right? One of the big things that you guys have, or one of the big themes here, is botanical-infused cocktails.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about sort of menu design and how you come up with the menu and the ingredient list for your drinks.
So, there's a lot of parts to curating a menu, right? One of the big things is I like there to be something for everybody. Mm-hmm. So, that's not everybody's going to like the wartime consigliere, and that's okay. If they want something more refreshing, we've got these two. Those two drinks are both pretty refreshing and fruity, I guess. So, there's a lot of aspects to it. Like, maybe I meet a rep for a brand and I really like that person.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and put something on the menu for them,
Gotcha.
Maybe I read a book and I like the name of the book and I want to base a drink on it.
Yeah.
I had a drink called the Blood Meridian at one point, Definitely important to think about seasonal ingredients, both because they're cheaper when they're in season, right? But also they're better. So, the Lawyer's Guns of Money has been on the menu for a while, and it uses cranberries, and when they're in season, they're a little bit better.
Okay.
Luckily, cranberries you can kind of get year round, but it's definitely, you can taste the difference,
And so behind the scenes, where we're talking a little bit about sort of the new menu that you guys are dropping in January, can you give folks at home a sneak peek to what that menu will look like?
So we're going to have Negroni on the menu that I'm really excited about, that has one of the most bitter ingredients you'll ever have.
Okay.
It's this stuff called Nova Salis.
Okay.
I'm still tinkering with how bitter I want to make the drink. I personally like it really bitter, but almost everybody who's tried it is like, I think it's too bitter. I'm like, it's supposed to be though, so it's tough, right? You don't want to make a drink that nobody likes.
Yeah.
But sometimes you like things that nobody likes, you know?
It's fair.
And I kind of balance it.
Yeah.
So we got that. We're working on a daiquiri. It's going to be like a winter kind of daiquiri.
Okay.
We're still figuring out, like you said, a big part of our menu is the infusions and I'm not trying to be a snake oil salesman, but we like to use botanicals.
Yeah.
Both for the flavor and possible health benefits. I mean, it's alcohol, right? I'm drinking at the end of the day, but you might get some health benefits at the same time.
Exactly.
Right?
And I'm sure folks would appreciate that. I know I will.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For folks who have never been to Apotheke, what type of experience should they expect?
We opened in 2008. Bear with me here.
Yeah.
That's oftentimes considered the cocktail renaissance in the 2000s.
Yeah.
We were 2008, right around the same time as a lot of other big names that, I'm sure you guys know. We're a little bit different than them though, in that we have live music every day, and we're not seating only. It's standing room.
Okay.
If you come in on a Tuesday, the first time I ever came into this bar was on a Tuesday. My friend was working behind the bar, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. We have a brass band on Tuesdays. They're called High and Mighty Brass. They just celebrated their 10-year anniversary at Apotheke.
Nice.
They've been here pretty much every Tuesday for 10 years, right?
Nice.
It is nuts.
Yeah.
You've got 8-piece brass band right in this
that was
corner.
your first time, was going in
Yeah.
and seeing them. Nice.
I was on a date, and it went very well.
Nice.
It's loud, people are dancing, and you still get a great cocktail.
That's right.
And there are definitely places like that besides us, but I think we do it the best.
How much of a decision like that, i.e. bringing in live music, burlesque, right? How much does that play, or how often do you guys think about that?
We tend to do residencies. Yeah. So, every Tuesday is High and Mighty. Okay. Every Monday is members of this band called La Banda Chusca.
Okay.
They're the newest band that we have. And the way that we found them was that they actually were covering for our former Sunday band called Live Footage. And they were covering for them. And we weren't open on Mondays yet, but we were trying to find a band for Mondays, and we were like, oh, this is perfect. This is something, this is different than all of the other bands. We want every day to be specific and have its own kind of vibe and its own scene, right? To get different people in, and also for variety's sake, But I mean, a cumbia band on a Monday, that's pretty wicked, right?
Yeah. And no one else is doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, not to my knowledge. Yeah.
So talk to us about, especially for the cocktail enthusiasts out there, Apotheke Academy.
Yeah.
Right. We'd
Yeah.
love to just learn a little bit more about that.
Yes.
And yeah, feel free to, to give us the pitch and the spiel.
So I've been doing these. I mean, we've been doing classes here for years. I couldn't even tell you how long.
Yeah.
But every Saturday at 2:00, you come in. We do 4 cocktails in 2 hours.
Nice.
We tell everybody, make sure you eat before you come.
Don't come on an empty stomach.
Right. We have 5 different classes right now that we rotate through. So we have like a sugarcane spirit. So that's going to be like rum and cachaça, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a spirits of Mexico. So that's tequila, mezcal, and sotol. And I talk about raicilla, but I don't have a raicilla that's super affordable. It's kind of expensive. But we also have a world of whiskey. So we talk about whiskeys from around the world. What is whiskey? What is the differences between Scotch and bourbon and rye and Canadian, Irish? We have a Prohibition era. It's all classic cocktails. And then we have the Market Fresh.
Okay.
Market Fresh is like kind of an intro to our ethos.
Okay.
How you can like go to a grocery store, go to your farmer's market, and buy like raw products and then transform them into an amazing cocktail.
Okay.
That's kind of like, I'm not going to say it's the intro class, but that's like the ethos of what we do here.
Yeah. So you guys recently did a collaboration with Chase.
Yeah.
At their new Sapphire Lounge.
Yeah. The LaGuardia.
At the LaGuardia Airport, which I thought was fantastic and phenomenal.
Yeah.
How did that come together? Talk about that experience and what it was like doing that.
So I didn't actually have too much to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
That was all our CEO and our head mixologist. I mean, they're killing it, in a good way. Like, I did get to work EatsCon because Chase is a sponsor for EatsCon. So I did New York last year or 2 years ago, and then this past year. And then we were just, they took us out to Chicago, which was pretty crazy.
Nice.
Sorry, I'm like, oh, you asked me about Chase, now I'm talking about EatsCon. I realized I kind of changed the topic.
No, it's fun.
So the EatsCon is, I mean, it's a food festival, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just shaking cocktails for 6 hours straight. By the end, like, you feel like you got to work out for sure.
Now, I guess, is their beverage or drink menu, does it pull from the Apotheke menu or?
EatsCon?
Yeah.
So our head mixologist comes up with those.
Got it.
He came up with a Chase Sapphire cocktail that is on.
Interesting.
Like, you can get it at the LaGuardia Chase Sapphire Private Lounge.
Yeah.
You can also, like, I'm pretty sure it's been at every one of the EatsCons.
Okay.
And that's like, I want to say it's a blueberry juice, lime juice, I think oregano or thyme, and then gin or vodka. And there's a couple other ingredients I'm forgetting. Forgive me. It's been a while.
Okay.
But then each one, I'm pretty sure Nick O'Connor has done a different menu at each one, which is so much work. It's so much R&D. It's so worth it.
Yeah.
But he's a hard-working guy.
And Nick is the head.
Yeah, he's my
mixologist.
boss.
Yeah, gotcha.
One of my several bosses.
All right, so before we transition into our last segment here, let's pick another drink, man.
Yeah.
What we got?
Let's go Mistral McCall.
Okay. All right. So what we got here?
This is a take on a jungle bird.
This is really good.
Thank you. So that is absinthe Suze, which is a gentian liqueur from France. It's like very bitter. That's like standing in for the Campari. And then I do have a little bit of Ray and Nephew overproof Jamaican rum in there too. Yeah.
There you go.
So the name of the drink, jungle bird, I wanted to have something with bird. I'd like alliteration. So Mistral, the Mistral winds are a wind that blow through Provence. That is widely attributed to the clean air and like clean light source that they have, because there's no like dust up in the atmosphere. So in I want to say the 1500s, a lot of artists would go to Provence because the light was so much better.
Gotcha.
And so they would draw and paint and whatnot. So Mistral, because the absinthe is from Provence. That's where that comes from. And then, macaw is a kind of bird. So
got it.
And it's also a jungle bird in and of itself, I guess. I guess. So.
I got you. All right. So You up for a little speed round here?
Let's do it.
I'll ask you a bunch of questions, rapid fire.
Yeah.
5 seconds to answer.
Okay.
Ready for it?
Yeah.
All right, so favorite bar, obviously outside of Apotheke here to
Yeah.
take your friends to in New York City?
Desert 5 spot.
Okay. How about if you're on a date, also out here in the city?
Katana Kitten.
Okay, that's a good one. Gin or vodka?
Gin.
Sweet or bitter? Tough one.
I love them both. I'd go bitter.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially for winter, I think bitter's better.
Favorite, we'll call it spirit to work with?
To work with or to drink?
To work with.
To work with? You said 5 seconds. I'm sorry. It's so hard for me to pick one.
Tick, tick.
I mean, bourbon.
Okay.
Bourbon's just my love.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's to work with.
Work with and drink.
And
both.
drink. Okay.
Yeah.
That was going to be my follow-up there. That's good. That's good. I've got to ask, love sort of figuring this out from bartenders too, but what's the craziest bartender story you've got, while working here in the city? Doesn't necessarily have to be here at Apotheke.
Craziest story. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been here, I'm coming up on 10 years of bartending in New York, so I have quite a few. I guess, I don't know if it's crazy, but it's kind of funny. I said we're not standing room only here, but right after COVID, there were so many regulations that we were seating only.
Yeah.
So it was the first and only.
People were like, what, 10 feet apart?
Yeah. Like, you had the table.
Yeah, you had like literally one table in every corner.
I think we had a couple, like a table or two out in the open space here. But it was the one and only time that we ever had seats at the bar.
Okay.
We don't put seats at the bar because it's so high volume. We're churning through drinks, making little drinks. But at that point, it was small enough, and we were allowed to do it. So we were like, okay, cool. So we have seats at the bar. I'm working at a station over there, and this woman walks through the door, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, she looks like a hot AOC.
And it is AOC.
But I didn't even realize she sits down right in front of my station, and I'm like, hey, how are you? What can I get you?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize until slowly every table got up and came over to say hello to her. And I was like,
you're like, wait, hold on.
That is AOC, right? I immediately started dropping things. I'm like, oh God, she's sitting right in front of my station.
Yeah.
She was awesome. She was so polite. She was there with a friend.
Yeah.
I wasn't until her friend had 2 or 3 drinks, nothing crazy. But she had one and she just kept drinking water. And I realized she's a politician. She's got to be professional. She's in the spotlight, you know. So I was like, I can make you mocktails. And she was like, oh my God, that would be great. So I started making her mocktails for the rest of the night. I got a picture with her. I was like, I'm sorry, I hate to ask this, but my mom would kill me if I didn't. Can I get a photo with you? She was like, absolutely. She came behind the bar, and she was great. Shout out AOC.
Nice.
I guess that's a fun one.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's a great one.
All right. It's one of the few PG ones I can tell. I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. All right. So last drink here. Talk to us about it.
Yeah. So this is the Lawyers, Guns, and Money, named after the song of the same name by Warren Zevon.
So good.
The name actually came from Greer. He's our director of operations.
Okay.
He texted me one day. I was working on this drink, and I didn't have a name for it yet. And he just texted me one day, Lawyers, Guns, and Money. I was like, oh my God, great idea. So, we got tequila. Terramana Blanco's in there right now. An apple eau de vie from France. Okay. It's an unaged apple brandy. It's one of my favorite things, one of my favorite spirits. That actually, I should have put that. I should have said that, damn it, as my favorite spirit to work with.
It's all good. You can plug it in now.
So Christian Drouin makes this Le Blanche. It's an unaged apple brandy. It's just so crisp and appley.
Yeah.
No sugar added or anything like that. It's almost a Calvados, but it's not aged, so I can't call it that. And then we also have some Aperitivo Select. It's kind of in between Campari and Aperol with regards to sweet and bitter.
Yeah.
So those are our spirits, and then we make a cranberry syrup in house. There's some lemon juice, and then tonic and Peychaud's bitters.
Okay.
The garnish. So we used to have a drink called Slow Burn, and we would dip we actually did the same thing. Rosemary dipped in absinthe, and we light it on fire.
Yeah.
And I loved that garnish. But I was like, let's up the ante.
Yeah.
And so we expressed the orange peel across to get that flame effect.
There you go. Yeah.
Funny story about that one. Also, we had a guy in. His name's Dan Dunn.
Okay.
And he's a writer. I think he's a writer and he has like a podcast. Really, really cool guy. And he comes in and he sees the drink on the menu and he's like, I'll have that. I gotta have that. He was like, do you know the song? I was like, yeah, definitely. I love the song.
Yeah.
And he was like, that was written about Hunter S. Thompson, the writer, the guy Johnny Depp plays in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And then he pulls out his phone and he shows me a picture of him with Hunter S. And he's like, I used to work for Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
He was like, him and Warren Zevon used to party a lot.
Yeah.
And this song Warren Zevon wrote about Hunter S. Thompson. I was like, I had no idea. Now when you listen to the lyrics, it's like,
it's
oh
coming
my God.
together.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. I mean, the opening line is I went home with the waitress just like I always do. That's such a Hunter S. thing to say, you know?
We got to meet Hunter S., man.
So yeah, Lawyers, Guns, and Money.
Good. I love it, man. All right, so before we close out, Gerard, this has been absolutely fantastic here. Any final words you'd love to leave the audience with?
Come do a cocktail class with me. They're really fun, educational, great date. Shake strong, stir swift.
There we go. I love it, man. Gerard.
Cheers. Thank you, Paris.
Cheers, man. All right.